Hey homeschool friends, welcome to Simple Joys Homeschool. My name is Brianna and today we're kind of just gonna chat. I wanted to do a October update and then I realized that we're already partway through November, so I thought, we'll just call this autumn. We'll say that it's an autumn recap of everything that's been happening in our homeschool so far in these last few weeks. So the month of October was a little strange, and it usually is for us because here where we live, it's really only the end of the month that gets somewhat autumnal, right? September is still scorching hot, and finally by the end of October, you want to be outside all the time and the leaves are just barely starting to change color. Now that we're in the second week of November, they're actually really changing colors. So usually in October is when we kind of take an extended break, because I hate telling my kids to come inside to do schoolwork. If they're playing outside and loving nature and using their imaginations and getting dirty, I want them to do that as much as humanly possible. So in October, we just kind of say, you know what, we'll just take a step back, take a week or two off, depending on the weather. That way we can really enjoy all of the fun Halloween stuff. My birthday is in October. We can just really embrace the season for everything that it has to offer. All right, so I have notes, because like I said, this is just gonna be chatty, and this is very random stuff. None of it is in any logical order. This is just kind of what we've been up to this month. For starters, we homeschool year round, if you didn't know that, and that's why it's okay for us to take a couple weeks here and there off in October, and really just whenever we need to, because I school from July through June, and we take breaks usually in October and kind of March, April, May in a way, and then we work really hard during the heat of the summer in July and August. So this is typical for us, but probably a little unusual for a lot of other homeschool families where you're used to taking more of a traditional summer break like the public schools do. So partway through, I think it was probably the second and third week of October, we actually had to move out of our house again and then move back in again and stay with my in-laws and my parents 1 week at each of them while our house was finally getting the final coat of paint on. If you don't know, my house has been going through a year-long extravaganza of remediating from mold and pretty much completely remodeling the entire house. Floors, walls, we were down to studs, plumbing, electric, paint, furniture, everything. It's a mess. But we're finally at the home stretch, and it has been right at a year that we have been dealing with all of this. We moved out of our house last November. Anyway, so the painter was finally to the point where he could come back, do the second and final coat on all of the baseboards, all of the doors and the walls and everything, which that meant that then the plumber could come and finish the installation of toilets, and the electrician could come and finish the installation of the lights. So, fun fact, we have been living with one toilet, one bathtub, not in the same place, and let's see, we have lights in the kitchen and lights in the dining room and a ceiling fan in each bedroom, and that's it. So since April through November, I have been getting ready in the dark and all five of us have been sharing one toilet and no mirrors, and it's been kind of a hot mess. It's kind of like glamping for the last 7 months of our lives, but it's been fine. We've managed. It's just a little quirky. So we moved out for 2 weeks while that happened. Actually, believe it or not, that's not the 2 weeks that we took off from schoolwork. So while we were at my in-laws and my parents, at first I didn't plan to do school, and then I realized, oh, we have nothing to do, because when I'm at home, I have projects, I have laundry, I have yard work, all these things to take care of. But when we're at someone else's house, you don't have to do all of those things. And so I found that we were getting really bored really easy. So I packed up all of our school stuff, which was an endeavor because all of it, we had everything covered up in like heavy plastic so that all of the spraying and stuff wouldn't get onto our things. So we had to unearth all this plastic and me fish out all of our hundreds of books and things like that to take with us to complete school. Which in those 2 weeks, I was really second guessing, should I school this way? I understand the appeal of online school now, because you can do it whenever you want and wherever you want. You can do it on the road, you can take it on vacation with you. But the way I do it, I have lots of hands-on materials and I need luggage just to homeschool, apparently. We did all of that and we made it, and then by the time we got back, that's when we decided, okay, this has been a lot. We have to get our house back in order. So for those 2 weeks, it was, I don't know, we did so much stuff. We managed to squeeze in all the fun fall things and my birthday, but we also did some really practical stuff around the house, and we moved some more things back in, moved a couple more kitchen items back in. I rearranged all of our school belongings, and we just really got settled back in because we had very minimal things in our house when the paint was being done. So on our 2-week break, we went downtown to a pumpkin patch type of thing. It was actually kind of really overrated, and I don't know that I would do it again, but my parents paid for it for us to go. And so it was fun. It just wasn't super exciting. There wasn't a lot to do, which is not uncommon for things in my state. That's why we like to go another state over for fun festivals and stuff. And then also because we were delayed, I finally got to decorate for Halloween, which is my favorite, and I love Halloween. Because of all the mold stuff, we had to get rid of some of our things, had to disinfect some of our things to bring it back in. So it wasn't as much decoration as I normally do, but it was still fun to finally be able to do it, even though it was only like 1 week ahead of time. I usually like to have it decorated for the whole month of October, but that's okay. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And then for my birthday, my big family tradition that we always do, kind of my birthday present to myself, is that instead of carving pumpkins for Halloween, we paint pumpkins. So me and the girls and my husband got to go in the garage and do that once again this year, which was really fun. And this year I decided to do something different that I've never done before. I had heard kind of about, Switch Witch and Boo Baskets, and I decided, okay, I kind of want to combine those and do our own version of it because we do have some food restrictions and allergies and things. And on top of that, I just really don't like my kids gorging themselves on candy at Halloween and Easter and all these candy holidays. So this year, what I decided to do, a couple days ahead of time before Halloween, to get little goodie type things, a small little toy, a couple of snack items and candy type fruit kind of items that my kids don't get all that often but are still, mom approved and everything. I went ahead and gave that to them ahead of time so that they would know, okay, when we trade in our candy at the end of the night, we know that we still got this fun stuff and got to celebrate, and we still were able to go trick-or-treating and have fun walking around as a family like we always do. Also during our 2 weeks off, all of my kids got sick, so that was great timing that I didn't have to pause school to deal with sick kids during it. We were already on our break, so it worked out perfect. Another very random thing that I figured out over these last 6 weeks or so is that I'm allergic to no-see-ums. Okay, these don't exist where I live, to my knowledge, but apparently they do. But I have never been bitten by one. But I got probably 7 different bites in the last 3 or so weeks, and these things are so incredibly itchy. They're 10 times itchier than mosquito bites, and apparently I'm allergic because I was red for weeks. I still have a scar on my arm from the very first one that I got. These things are no joke, and if you live in a coastal area, I am so sorry that you have to deal with these on a regular basis because it was genuinely torture to try to sleep through all of this itching, and all of the regular treatments don't work. Eventually, rubbing alcohol kind of took away a little bit of it, but I tried everything and it's miserable. One really homeschool related thing that we have been working on little by little is kind of changing our expectations and rewards and consequences and things like that we do. I am not naturally really good at typical classroom management type things. I wasn't when I was a classroom teacher, and I'm not as a homeschool teacher. I guess maybe it's a product of how I was raised, of thinking that, the expectations that you set for your kids, that's just what it is. And you either do it or you get your butt whooped, right? Probably not great parenting advice nowadays, which is why I'm trying to be a little bit better, but it's hard because I just don't have any context. So I'm trying really hard to learn these new ways, not be stuck in like the old ways of just, well, this is expected of you, so you do it kind of a mindset. So we're working on a couple of things. One of my daughters is very literal. She's neurodiverse in her own ways, and One of those things is needing very explicit literal instructions. And so one day I sat down and wrote out all of these very, very painfully specific expectations, like that we don't throw pencils or slam books or whine and moan instead of using real words. Some things like that she was having behavior issues with when she gets frustrated, because she will have some communication issues when she gets frustrated and worked up. And so by laying these out very specifically, she was like, oh, I didn't know that's what you wanted out of me. Okay, great. And so we refined that. And with that, I decided to bring in kind of a token economy type system where I had just a bunch of like treasure chest type stuff. So I have that in a little container, and each of my kids has a jar, and I decided that seasonally I'll change what their filler is. And when it gets filled up, they get to trade that in for picking something out of the treasure chest. And so for the fall, I found these really cute little miniature pine cones and pumpkins. And so I'll give them those whenever they are showing good behavior. I think the part that's difficult for me is that I'm just not good at keeping up with this, that, I'm very quick to verbally praise, but to follow through and physically like, oh, here, you get a star, you get a token, you get a point, a stick, whatever. I'm just not really good at keeping up with that. But my kids are finally at the age where they're able to remind me of things like, oh, hey, I feel like I did good today. Do I get 1 or 2 of these, or whatever the case may be? So that's been going good. Another thing kind of related to that is I finally bit the bullet and I bought a skylight calendar, again, because I am not good at this reward system thing, and it has that worked into it already. My daughter, who's very literal thinking, has loved this. She is Johnny on the spot. She checks off her chores every morning and every night, and boy howdy, she is the one racking up those points. She has more than any of us combined, I'm pretty sure, and she's like hoarding them away, like, no, I'm gonna keep a minimum of like 300 points and then I'll start spending them. And we have these little fun rewards set up for it. But also it was kind of a household management thing of, I have the grocery list in the kitchen on the refrigerator, and then I have my personal calendar in front of me, and my husband has his work calendar on his phone, and I have lists all the time going in my head of groceries and to-dos and remodel to-dos, and it was just too much. So finally we have it in one spot. We have the app that me and my husband can share, and we have it on this home base. And I thought it would be really cool to use it for homeschool, for our morning time, calendar time, since I don't have a traditional classroom type setup. We just kind of do it in the middle of our living room. I don't have a big calendar on the wall, so I can pull up the calendar on there while we do our calendar skills for my youngest ones. And then I think it was last week, we finally decided that the chickens were old enough that they could come out into the yard, and we were testing out how our dogs would react with them. One of them is made to be a protector. The other one is made to be like a chaser. And so it was pretty funny. We let them out and we did okay. We were all very nervous, but they actually really loved it. And we've gotten to the point where every couple of days we'll let them out while we're out there under supervision, make sure our chasing dog doesn't attack them. And it's been really great. And it's really cute to see everyone interact with them, and the kids absolutely love it. All right, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was something I alluded to in a previous curriculum video of, we have been experimenting with changing one of our curriculums that we use, but I haven't wanted to say anything until we were quite a few weeks into it to really get a feel for it, because I hate whenever you see video reviews on a curriculum and they've used 1 or 2 weeks of it, and that's just not an accurate representation of what it truly feels like. And then of course a few months later you see them come back, they're like, oh, this wasn't what I thought. Well, yeah, because you only gave it 2 weeks. For my oldest, for language arts and history, we switched her from Good and Beautiful Language Arts and Pandia Press History to Bookshark for both. Now, this year is kind of a transition year because the next year is when literature and history are combined. So this year I kind of had to piece together level 3 and level 4 language arts with history C, I believe it's called. So we've been working through that, and it's actually been really good. I love that the history is using really fun books to go with it. The read alouds have been amazing. Sticks Across the Chimney was so good, such a good read aloud. She read Viking Tales, I believe, is like an independent one. She's working on House on Wallinska Street right now, and it's been good. We are reading Robin Hood. We're about to finish it, and that's been really fun. And doing map work and discussion questions. The poetry is a little tricky, but again, she's my literal one, and so abstract thinking is a little challenging for her, but I'm glad that we're doing it, and they're really great poems. A lot by Christina Rossetti, which I really like her. And the language arts, I've actually been able to kind of skip around because I bought both levels. I wasn't sure what level she's at. She has a really high reading level, but a probably below grade level writing ability, but not by much. And so I wanted to really use this to bridge her up so that next year when they're combined, she's not totally over her head. So I kind of went through the book selection of both of those and picked out which books I thought would be really good hits with her. And so we've been able to combine weeks and scoot ahead pretty far so that I can fit in both years in one, and I'm not doubling my work, I'm just picking and choosing what weeks I want to do, making sure that we're not skipping any of these fundamental writing prompts of it. But I can get more into that later if you want to hear all about Bookshark. All right, guys, well, that is all I have for today. I hope that you're having a wonderful start to November, and I will hopefully see you back soon. I have lots of ideas, lots of things I want to talk about. It's just finding the time to sit down and actually talk about them. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.